So welcome back to Everything Marketplaces. We talk with founders and leaders from some of today's top marketplaces. So this is episode 46, and I'm actually going back and reshooting the intro from the group chat that we had this morning with Ajay, who's a founder and CEO of Roomi. So most of you are probably familiar with Ajay, who's in the community, and then also Roomi, as he's actually one of our first group chat guests when we first started the Everything Marketplaces community. So since then, I've received a ton of great feedback on his episode, so I wanted to have him join us again and share more on the latest. So you're definitely gonna love the group chat there that we had with Ajay this morning, where he showed more on the latest with Roomi, some key learnings and insights, and then also some tactical tips that he's used to scale Roomi to where it's at today. So with that said, I'm just gonna jump right into Ajay, giving a quick kind of refresher on his background and the original story of starting Roomi.
Sure. No, thank you for having me here. Love the community, and it's grown so much actually. Super happy to kind of see the growth, from early days to now. So congrats to it, and I think everyone who's been involved. Definitely love it. My background, so I can say, you can call me Ajay or AJ, but grew up in India and moved to States at the age of 17 after failing my high school twice, actually. That's a kind of the story I never talk about, but starting my first company 6 months after landing in New York. And I used to build websites, like a dev shop. I think one of the first easy ones to start with. Built over 250 projects, and then had a team, roughly 45 people, managing remotely. So remote revolution, I think I've been doing it for 15 years now. Did that for a while, and after 2 years started a second company, actually try to copy Craigslist in India, a website called Easy Advertise, and we were the early players with OLX and Quicker in India, and Suleika, other companies in India actually. I think did decently well. We had 500,000 hits a month, all organic traffic. And then 2012, I was just frustrated with finding roommates, and I think was using Craigslist and Facebook groups and all these sites. Just felt like no one was focusing on the person. They were all just very focused on the apartment, the room. So I wanted to build something where people can easily find a roommate, can easily rent a room, but really focus on you. So your profiles from LinkedIn, from social, doing background checks, ID checks, maybe reviews, maybe credit history, whatever we can bring together to make sure that you spend less time worrying about who the right person is, and you can actually find amazing people and also find amazing places. Bootstrap the company, raised our first capital, I think in 2014, raised over $20 million in capital, multiple rounds. Build a company, acquired 5 asset companies, and also I think I've been close to now almost 3 bankruptcies, very, very close. One of those, I remember 2 very carefully. One is, I remember raising a Series A, and we signed a term sheet, a big check coming in, and just felt like that morning there's no money in the bank, and damn, the check hasn't hit the bank account yet, and felt like we're gonna go bust. And then a couple of years ago, we couldn't raise the last round, and then we felt like, wow, this is it, this is over, and where had to rebuild the company again to what it is now, and definitely much better foundation. So excited to tell the story.
Awesome. Yeah, you have quite the incredible journey. So definitely, great to chat about things. And also too, I do want to mention for those that are on the chat, we can go super deep on tactics. AJ is quite hands-on. So I did want to ask about kind of, where are you at with things today? Like what's the current kind of scale of Roomi at, for a little bit of context?
Yeah, just the context. So we have now, I think we're just close to, 3.2 million people registered on the platform. We have close to 1 million rooms total listed. And I think we have 2 times more supply, if I'm not wrong, in New York especially. And I think probably the biggest player in Mexico City as well. So we did, so that's sort of the context where we are now. And we have been break even and actually a couple of months profitability since like late 2020 till now. I think we're about to hit that again. The busy season is coming up, from now on. And where we are now is really focusing on that. How do we like just break even all year round, right? Like just finally be like just there and finally make a profit and grow the company more sustainably.
That's awesome. Congrats. I know last time you were on, that was the goal.
Yeah, that was the goal. Thank you.
So congrats on that. Yeah. So just maybe if you could share a little bit more on, a little bit more behind that kind of goal and how that has kind of shaped how you run the company. I think that'd be great.
It's crazy. I'm sure that everyone has heard about the whole Gumroad story, the Sahil, right? I think Roomi's story is Gumroad's story. It's very much like that. I think a little bit nuances to it, and I think when you look at it from outside, it seems very different, but from inside, it's actually the same. And we kind of been that company. I think I look at like in 2012, imagine starting a company. No one cared about revenue. You had this sort of the idea and the marketplace, you want to show that, can you scale this thing? Because the liquidity is very important. And if you don't sort of like nail that down, you feel like you're just like any other random player. Why would you ever move from XYZ platform to your platform? So I think that was a game when I started the company. And I was like, okay, let's just scale as fast as we can. And I remember going from like 10,000 to 100,000 to a million, then to now, whatever it is, over 3 million. And I think that was a game. But I remember also in 2018, it was shifting. It was shifting fast that, now we want to see some revenue now. So I think we've kind of like did a great job in scaling. I think if you look at marketplaces and you look at New York, I think Street Easy is one of the few companies that I can imagine who did this right. There was Zillow, that was like, Trulia, and they were the only company to nail down New York market. And I think there was a reason for that. I actually spoke to the founder as well. They stayed focused on New York as long as they can, and they went as deep as they can. So I took the same playbook actually early. I met him actually early days, and you know what? If we have to make Roomi something, we got to be like Street Easy. And how do we do that? So we stayed focused on New York even till now, and we spent every resource we can imagine, every growth hack we can imagine, from meeting people on the streets to doing the SEO, sending flyers, mailers. I mean, you name it, man. Growth hacks on app stores and all types of crazy stuff that we can do. And once we did, we saw the results that was like actually working for us. And I think now we're at a stage where I believe that the company is in a really good spot, where we have like a couple of markets, like a lockdown, like we are the biggest player in those markets. And we are now slowly using our profits from those markets to deploy into developing other markets. It's a long game still. I feel it's been almost a decade, and we're just getting started actually.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually thinking about early the kind of some of the similarities to the Gumroad story. So
yeah.
Talking about the markets, what are your primary markets today?
So our biggest ones are New York is the biggest one, and then we have Mexico City, the second biggest, and then we have LA, Atlanta, DC, Austin. These are growing markets actually. We're also doing decently well in some of the other markets in Europe actually, because of we've done a lot of feed partnerships. I'm sure that a lot of marketplaces look into not sending a click back to other platforms, but you can actually get the data and internally connect the APIs to still send responses or leads to other platforms. And that has helped us a lot. Of course, getting those links to Google and kind of getting more traffic from there. So some of the Europe markets are growing as well. London, especially in Spain, actually, we're doing decently well, and India as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like you have quite the foothold in a lot of markets now. I did want to ask, how do you manage kind of marketplace liquidity in those markets?
What we do, we took this example actually early days, and everyone has their own take on it, I think. But the way we measured our success was, we said, okay, let's find the biggest player in this market. As an example, I'll give you, let's say, New York, right? And let's see the total supply. You kind of spend maybe a couple of weeks on that and just kind of track the numbers on a daily basis, right? And we said, okay, if we can hit like 20 to 30% of that, so like the monthly liquidity from the supply side, I think we kind of nailed it, and then you kind of go up from there. But you will seed the marketplace with, let's say, our number is like 50. We want to have 50 rooms in any market, if you want to seed them nicely, and it takes a while. Sometimes you like open up a market, do nothing for those markets at all. And then once we get to that market, then we start to say, okay, let's get 50 before we move to the next market. And then we see where do we actually compare ourselves some of the other players in the market.
Awesome. And then what about as far as from a monetization side? Has that kind of changed recently since we last spoke, or?
It has, man. It has. It's kind of crazy. And this is an interesting topic, man. Really, I'm glad you asked me. I think starting Roomi, where I think I got wrong, and also eventually right with my team. I think I thought that most of the money in this marketplace would come from massive transactions. Because a marketplace is not a marketplace unless you have a transaction piece. Everyone talks about that, right? There's a lot of blogs and articles, everything. Right? Everyone's going to talk about a marketplace with transaction value, right? And so we thought the same thing. You know what? If people can book it online, then we take 10%. That's a take rate, 12%, 9%, 8%, whatever that looks like, right? And I was so wrong. I mean, I cannot tell you how miserably wrong I was. And because the problem is I could not wrap my head around the circumvention, right? If your marketplace exists, then there's absolutely the circumvention also exists, right? Depends on different platforms. And in our case, it was huge because if once you meet the person, you can say, hey, why would I pay 10%? Even though all the, of course, the positives were there, you're not going to get scammed, it's much better, blah, blah, blah. But that 10% for someone sharing an apartment and someone paying 900, that means they're actually sharing because they cannot afford to live on their own. So every dollar matters. And they're also sharing because they don't want to live by themselves. So man, that was a total disaster. And then I thought that small transactions would never add up to millions of dollars in revenue. I was literally against that. I was like, no, there's no way in the world that you can charge people $4, $5, $2, and then you can make a lot of money. But look at other players. I mean, even dating apps make huge sums of money, right? So we started to transition to this revenue, I think, that 3 years ago. Around the same time, Roomi was kind of like struggling, trying to find itself what the company would be, what the team would look like. And we started charging small amounts, anywhere from $1.99 up to $25, I think is the highest on the user side. And it can make millions of dollars in revenue. So I think the biggest one that we have now that I can share is actually sponsored listing. So people come online and they post a room, and if they are looking, there's urgency, and they're looking to find someone like as soon as possible. That means you want to be ranking on the top of the list, and you pay a price for that.
Awesome. Is that just out of curiosity? Is that typically individuals, or is that through some of your partnerships, or maybe some of buildings or management?
Great question, man. So Roomi does partner with. We have hundreds of partners across the world as co-living companies mostly and furnished rentals, but the revenues, is very small, like a couple of percentages compared to the user side. But yeah, so mostly just users paying for the service.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. I back to your earlier point. I think we hear so much about marketplaces and the kind of playbooks and what you should and shouldn't do. And I definitely feel like I love talking with you because you've definitely done it all. So
I was still learning, man.
And learned.
Still learning.
Yeah, cool. So maybe, I wanted to bring up, one of the topics that I know I was kind of talking about earlier was kind of community-driven marketplaces. So I wanted to jump into that a little bit more because you mentioned earlier on our previous chat about kind of building Facebook groups, and I think it was kind of cultivating, a potential supply. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit more now because I think it's a little bit more relevant in kind of the buzzword community-driven marketplaces is coming up quite a bit.
It's crazy. I know. I think when I was seeding these Facebook groups, and I did it personally, actually, I think Roomi didn't buy into Facebook groups. Kind of crazy. And I was like, you know what? I'll just start groups anyways. And I think there's 600,000 members total in these groups now. And I think the way we use them now is we let other people, of course, post as well. But as Roomi, we post our new listings directly. We still haven't done the API integration, but I think it's huge because the number of views you're getting on these listings and these profiles are actually crazy because Facebook does bring you traffic. So I think sending that data and then getting integrated, I think groups are now getting integrated into the Facebook marketplace nicely. So you can actually see your marketplace, I think, kind of like go there and get new eyeballs you never had before for free. And then you can turn them into sort of like the cycle back to the platform. And then hopefully there's a conversion. And people see clear value, right? Because I think people question, hey, if I send everything to Facebook, why not people use Facebook? Yeah, absolutely, they're going to use Facebook, but Facebook not going to do background checks on you. They're not going to do a payment history on you. They're not going to actually process the payments for you. They might, but not in that sense of what it is. So I think things are different still. So Facebook is really good for still like seeding your stuff to the groups and then get it back. But I think early days, what we would do is we would try to like open up or reach out to a group. Let's say London, and we're not in London yet. That's as an example. Then we'll go and find Facebook groups and say, hey, can we post 1 or 2 listings in your group? And we'll even pay $5, $10 a day, whatever that small fee is, or for free mostly, right? Unless you get spotted and then they ban you and they charge you actually. And that was the early way for us to get supply and demand actually. So a lot of the markets that we did open up, we use Facebook groups primarily to open up those markets. And then we're going to go and see, other platforms like, of course, like Craigslist competitors, Kijiji, and there's so many of them, right? And then you use them to basically drive traffic to the platform by, of course, posting listings and reaching out to people, blah, blah, blah. But I think nowadays the community first approach makes a lot of sense, because I'm also seeing that you don't have to even have a platform. Start a group, start a forum, start a subreddit. I mean, any thread on Reddit actually, and make it just genuinely big, right? I mean, not even big, I think genuinely value add actually for people. And if you do that really, really well, then people it's like Twitter. Forget about everything else. Just build your Twitter. And I think the problem is with these groups, 5 years ago when I was starting these groups, no one believed in it. They thought I was literally wasting my time on these groups. Like, dude, it's never gonna work. They're never gonna grow. We have 600,000 members now, right? And we haven't spent any dime except managing. I haven't spent any money on growing these groups. No Facebook ads, no ads, nothing actually. So I feel that's what it is you have to be patient with these strategies, just like, organic traffic as well. Just like give it like 6 to 9, 12 months, and then you start to see early results actually that you can use for your company.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to just provide a little bit more context for people here in the group. So you did mention the kind of scale as far as like the total kind of members, but how many groups and kind of how many markets do you currently run?
Man, I think we are close to 100, 150 now.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I can do a session of Facebook group management, man. I learned a ton. We built teams around it, 24/7 teams actually, moderating very heavily. So we have very heavily moderated groups actually. We're not like random groups that you join and the scam is happening and we don't spot. No, we're gonna spot it. We're gonna block you. Well, what I haven't done yet, I think, on that topic of Facebook, is like when you think of these communities, often people build communities one way. So I go to a Facebook group, I get what I want, and then I'm done off the platform. See, that's not a scalable and I think a good, deep community, I feel, not engaged community. But you can actually use the group to ask from the community. And then you can build on top of it. And you can start to do from newsletters to specific information to sending products to sending whatever that is through newsletters and whatever. I think you can build basically a group, engage, ask the community, get the question and answers, build something for that community, either start a newsletter or CRMs and sales cycles. And I think you can actually build this revolving engine. It's like a marketplace. And I think it just actually can become huge and you can generate huge sums of money from these things as well.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great point. So, yeah, I did have a question or a kind of topic I wanted to bring up, which was, since Roomi is for finding a roommate, and that's not, I don't know that kind of frequency that you're seeing as far as, people, using the app and the kind of retention, but could you share a little bit more about that and maybe some of, how you've kind of thought through that kind of retention?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked that question. I don't, thousands of times, man. I think I can, even if I can count it. But I think I had to make myself and my team comfortable that we're not a heavily retention-based platform, right? Let's just get out of the window, right? That topic, because I think the thing is, we're a real estate company. Our success is like a dating app, right? If you find someone amazing, then you're going to move. But Roomi has definitely some decent retention. So we have people coming back to us max, I'd say 4 times in the lifetime, I can say. Because, you might just live for a year or two, you might never come back to us and you go to other platform. But I think we've seen around four times, sort of like the people coming back and renting from Roomi. And we actually make our money back on the first time within 2 weeks. So we're actually, our average revenue per customer is super high. And our CAC is like super low right now. And this is because of organic traffic driven by word of mouth and other stuff. But it's very scalable and sustainable as well for us, at least where we are now. So I think even if you hit 1, and once you hit 1.5, we make a lot of margin on you. So our main target is not to even make 2. 1.5 is like, okay, how do we just bring you back again? Half the time, you're just like tiny transaction. Like it's like talking about like 99 cent adding on your stuff, and then this is it. It's like good for us. Yeah, so not a highly retention-based platform. We've thought about things like rental payments. We've done that. We've tried that. I'm a big advocate of that, but oh my God, this marketplace takes so much time, so much energy that I feel like, damn, I don't know if I can really build that version that we've been wanting to build for rental payments, and then the retention goes up, but then also the risk also goes up, fraud goes up, right? Chargebacks goes up. So I think there's a lot of processes we would have to develop along with that product. So I think we haven't really explored really building it out the right way.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that was actually one of my next kind of questions was, moving into payments and more of like, fintech services.
I mean, I believe in it, and we've done this. I think you already know it. We ran a product pretty actually successfully in 2017, 2018, and I think we processed close to $10 million. This is like 3-4 months of work, no money spent, $0 acquisition costs, and we were actually making 1% on top of the credit card fee actually. And I'm sorry, yeah, totally, yeah, because you get the savings. So yeah, 1%, yeah, after the discount from the Stripe, the processing fee actually. And we really wanted to build it out. It's just like we just haven't gotten the time to do it really. But maybe next year, I do believe in it actually.
Yeah, yeah. So on that note, yeah. So what's kind of ahead in the short term for you guys?
The one thing is I'm really taking the pages out of the Gumroad story. So we have finally gone, I'll tell you some good stuff that I think we've done against all the odds of our company. One is we are fully remote, of course, but we have been remote for many, many years, but we're absolutely fully remote. Second, we just eliminated our all hands meeting. Finally, it's just such a relief. So we're going no meetings company, like very, very just, unless you need to meet someone, don't get on a phone call or a Zoom call or whatever that call is. Also going very, very flexible, really focusing on the culture. So we're focusing on like work less. I think we expect you to work 8 hours a day so that you can get paid full salary. But I think, if you work, I expect internally 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day. Just take a chill pill, work and be happy and just take care of your mental health. That's more important than anything else. And we're going to build what we did in New York and Mexico City, at least 5 other markets. I'll give an example. So each market has the capacity to generate $1 million top line up to $5 million in revenue. Our margin is around 67% to 78%. It varies because of Google fees and Apple fees and Stripe fees, and some places we do more web, some places we do more mobile. It depends, so we have a high margin, of course, in web-based products, and then Apple. But I think so it varies. So we're just trying to create these at least 7 markets that can generate at the lowest minimum of $500,000 and the high of at least $3 million each market, to do that in the next 3 to 4 years.
Awesome. And then, so what is your kind of approach with that? Is that going to be off of the kind of user verifications and then the promoted listings, or?
So we're shifting more and more towards actually subscription business. So we are about to unveil, and this is like an exciting one. We're about to launch it, I think, June 1st. We've been building it out for a couple of months, man. And I think we're going away from, so we want to add more value and for a cheaper price. So instead of you paying $20 and buy this and buy that and buy the next, it's just tiring just to keep buying these random products, right? And just to get the full value out of the company. So I think we're going to say, okay, let's just pay one price and you get all these amazing things. And if you come back again for a couple of weeks and you pay it again, we make a margin. I think you're happy, you get a lot more done, and you're actually paying less cost. So that's a plan, and we'll just be getting each market to be profitable and then save that extra capital that we have after deploying the capital in that market to spend that money into other markets. So basically, let's say we go from New York, doing really well. We know what it works in New York now, how much money we got to spend in New York. We take that money, whatever savings we have now, we take it and put it back into, let's say, LA is a faster growing market now with that Atlanta. And also focusing on just revenue-based funding. We have stopped raising equity capital. I think the last round I raised was last year, and that was it. We are not raising any more, no more dilution for the company, and we're gonna just try to go as private as we can, as long as we can.
That's awesome. So on the note, as far as monetization in your markets in the different cities, how did you kind of think about, you're at some scale that's quite significant, so you can't just like flip the switch. So how did you think about introducing a subscription model, and then what is like your approach going to be for introducing that in different markets or all at once, or could you maybe share a little bit more on that?
So we have tested this in Mexico City actually. So the thing is, so we acquired a company in 2018, and that was a company that, we is now Roomi Latam. and they had subscription model that worked really, really well actually. And we were like kind of skeptical that this wouldn't work in the US, but I think as we've learned from that, that market behaves very similar to New York actually. And people do like that. And then we started to look into the data and we saw that a lot of people were doing the second purchase. And we saw the friction, actually, the drop-offs in from paying to successfully finishing up the product. Actually, and I feel there's a lot of clicks happening. So like you go online now and I get verified. So I pay for ID, then I pay for background. Then, oh, wow, now I have to boost my stuff. Then I pay for the boost. And you see, and we saw like if you remove these steps, we can have 5% to 30% increase in each of the conversion that we're trying to achieve actually. So why not just like have them pay once and then everything is just like at your leisure. You can just use them whenever you want to. And if you do come back and end up using for more than 2 weeks, then and that was a target, we make the most money in the first 2 weeks actually. So you're like, okay, how do we get them back after 2 weeks? And after, of course, add more value, but for cheaper cost. So we knew that if they come back the second time, we achieve profitability. So we can like force them to come back. What if we just give them a lot of value for cheap? So they feel like, wow, I'm really enjoying the platform and I can actually take my time to find someone. So I'll come back the second week and when the recurring revenue comes in. And also kind of moving away from a la carte revenue to more like a SaaS style in the marketplace business, more predictability in the revenue actually, and I think do that as well. So we can leverage the other sources of funding and hopefully just achieve different type of growth actually.
Got it. And on the other sources of funding, what other sources are you kind of looking at for potential options? Is it like PIPE?
I think, yeah. I'll be talking to actually. I think I have a bunch of calls that I'm going to be arranging for the next couple of weeks. I think PIPE is of course there. Clearbank. We already work with Clearbank, and we've been enjoying the relationship. It's actually amazing. But I'm thinking like just talk to more partners. There's a lot of also debt revenue-based funds out there that look at, I think Lighter Capital is one of them. I've had chat with them as well. So, excuse me, just like kind of look at those options and see what's a better fit for us. How do we achieve this thing without deleting ourselves anymore?
Cool. So we're going to jump into questions here. Hey, Tomas, did you want to jump on with a little tactical question that you posted?
Hey, good morning. I'm sorry, just making some breakfast right now. Yeah, man, super stoked on this. On this conversation. Been really helpful to hear, both some of your tactical advice as well as like broad strategy, like in your geo play of going like the full like saturation first before expanding out. That was really interesting. So quick rundown. I'm building a company called Simple Surf. We're kind of like city bike for surfboards. So we have a network of beachside lockers, fill them with unused boards from locals, and then rent them out. So you get just what you need, just where you need it. Would love to hear more about the the tactical playbook of the building the Facebook groups, because I think that was really interesting, and I haven't really considered that before. So if you're open to it, it'd be really great to hear kind of like, in the room when you're like guiding your team through the process of like, all right, we're going to start with a new market. We're starting from ground zero and we want to go from 0 to 1. Like, how do you go about those first steps?
No, thank you for asking the question, man. And Facebook group has evolved so much. When I started and now, and I think so some simple basic things, right? So starting a Facebook group, I think now you have to set it to public. Don't make it private. It's really hard to find and it's really hard to kind of market it actually. And a couple of ways you can do it. One is you can go paid. Something I'm exploring these days, actually, you can run an ad for Facebook groups and you find them very cheap. Very cheap compared to anything, because it's in the Facebook network actually. So you can actually grow that very highly targeted people. Checking out a group, actually they can join the group and like it. But the way we grew our groups, and I think the way I did it, is basically focusing on, so I'd say outsource. You got to build a team first of all, so you can go. It has to be cheap, right? So you're looking at outsourcing in other countries, basically. So you build, let's say, I don't know, we can start with one person, maybe a couple, and then seed the group, get your friends and family involved, just to kind of like make like 5 or 10 members in the group, basically, right? Just make basic posts And one of the best ways to do is just introduce yourself and then welcome. Hey, welcome. You have 5 people joining today. Boom, boom, boom. Check out their profiles, right? And then what you can do is have some of these members, even yourself, go to other groups and promote. So what happens is in this whole game is that most groups are not moderated heavily, actually. And even if they are moderated, there's a time window. So if you post today and I am promoting my own group on your group, that's a massive group, I bet you it's gonna take a couple of hours before you take me down. That's all you need. So one of the best ways to do it, because they're all run by people, they're all moderated heavily, not through like, yeah, Facebook has a lot of moderation stuff, but you would pass because your age of Facebook account should be old, number one. You should look like a real person with real friends. That's number two, right? You should real post just like a regular Facebook account. As long as you have those, I can guarantee you, man, you're gonna fly just like under the radar for as long as you can imagine. So target hundreds of groups in your market, go and build an engine. And other ways to do is sometimes what you can do, if you feel that you're gonna get a block a lot, I would set up a random site using a jot form or let's say even type form. And the site is basically, hey, I have a board, I'm trying to rent it out. Here's a site, link that. And what you do, people are gonna say, well, let me check it out. They click on the site, it's a real site, it's a landing page. They go enter their email, what you do, automation, send them here, hey back, hey, by the way, we'd also love to share a Facebook group. You should be joining that group actually and blah, blah, blah. So I think there's a lot of ways to build that. That's what I'm saying. The engine should be like you can build a circle where you go, share, create value, get them off the platform, get the information, build a CRM, set them something meaningful that they can click on, and then repeat the cycle. Then your Facebook group starts to grow actually. It's like a simple condensed version of it. I can tell you it pretty quick.
Cool, super helpful. Thank you.
Try out, man, and let me know how many groups.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, I actually had another question for you, AJ, and I know we mentioned it on the last chat, which was the importance of SEO in App Store optimization. Have you been focusing on that since then?
A lot. Lately, a lot actually. I have been doubling, tripling down, or 10x on the SEO side for the past, I'd say, couple of months, and we've seen some crazy results. Crazy. We've gone from, like, I'll give an example on top of my head. On the blog side, we were doing, I think, close to maybe 30 clicks a day. We're doing now close to 400 a day. On our organic traffic, I think we're doing around low hundreds. We're now doing over the 3-digit, so like the 30 traffic, I think. And it's been just been possible to really focusing on, just on page, just really just like a lot, like with SEO, sometimes people think a lot of tactics. Like you got to do this something super tactical to get SEO right. Sometimes I think it's just common sense. So your page is about, let's say, finding a roommate. What do people type on, find roommate or looking for roommate or whatever that is, right? Just align your page, change just make sure H1 is correct. Just make sure your metadata, the description is correct, the title is correct, and the page that's coming up, just make sure the speed is as fast as possible. That's all, done. And even if you make that simple change in the URL structural, right, the slug, I think is as simple as possible. This is it. So we made a lot of these simple changes, first of all. And then we went ahead and we actually hired this a company that I'm happy to share the resource. Actually, I think it should be a great fit for everyone. But it's a company out of a venture studio. And then we build this team for content, scaling content for as cheap as possible, scaling it to hundreds of blogs per month. Has been extremely efficient and very affordable. And we've been using that for the past 9 months. And we're like trying to get to, we do now 100 blocks per month, 3 a day. And we're trying to get to like a couple of hundred a month. So we can like start to rank for long tail keywords, like very low traffic keywords, but really build ourselves up. And then we go the medium, then we go the high, and they start to compete in different areas so that Roomi can show up for a lot of different things.
Yeah, that'd be great if you can share that resource.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Hey, so I had a question, just out of curiosity. So you mentioned that you had the platform in Mexico City. Is that under a different brand or a different kind of property?
It used to be.
Okay.
It used to be a different brand. It used to call dataroom.com, DADROM.com. We just merged and redirected the domain, I think 2 months ago.
Got it. Yeah,
And
that's what I was going to ask is,
yeah,
how you manage like multiple properties or kind of marketplaces. So
it was so tough. It was so tough. So we had to really merge it. But that was good because we did it the right way so we can get all the juice, the traffic that Google has been giving to them. So that's been actually very beneficial to us.
awesome. So today they're all part of Roomi as far as the main
Yep,
marketplace.
all Roomi. Roomyup.com. We do a lot of, so maybe on that topic, what I can say, I think here's one tactic that I can give you that can be used by any marketplace in the world. And I think very few people talk about it. I don't know why. And if you have a marketplace, highly consider localizing it. I know no one talks about it. I don't know how many times you hear it, man, but just hire someone very affordable to say, hey, here's my site. Can I create a version of this in Spanish or maybe Chinese or maybe Korean or maybe Hindi, Portuguese, whatever works for you. And here's what I say to people. I know that you're going to say, oh, but we're not in those markets. Absolutely not in those markets. But then maybe localize your blog then, right? If you're playing the game in the US and you're selling, let's say even like surfboards as an example, right? I mean, since it's in my top of my head now, if you had an article, the same article talking in 10 different languages, America has so many cultures. People search in Spanish, there's volume in all these languages, right? But no one is competing. Guys, there's no competition. Go and kill the competition. Get the early traffic that no one is getting, and then you build on top of it. We get so much traffic from Spanish blogs. That's what we did. So basically this company, right? It does in any language you want, they can get the resources and get it done for you. And I'm seeing so much traffic from Latam, and we're now trying to target actually Portuguese and just build that up, and then hopefully, when time is right, open up the site, get the content, get the supply, get the demand, and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's a great tip. So that's a more recent the kind of tactic that you guys are using, in correct?
Yeah, I think for a year or two we've been experimenting actually. So 2 years, because you bought the company 2 years, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. So we really got into it, I think 2 years ago, really learning about it. And the traffic we were seeing, it was bizarre. So I had to really work on the URL structures, just change the language. So if you actually open up Roomi app in Latam, it automatically turns all into Spanish, and then /ES, everything's all optimized. But now Cloudflare's launched easy localization for URLs, very, very easy, workers on Cloudflare. If you guys are working on that, that can do that very, very easily. So I'm now expanding the language tables to maybe multiple languages, I think 10 or 20 by the next year, so we can get more and more traffic from those languages.
Super interesting. And I did have a question for you, and that is, with these kind of early on acquisitions, how did you kind of think about that, and what was, how were you kind of, I guess, valuing, not from like a exact kind of monetary value, you don't have to say that, but as a marketplace, how did you kind of look at that?
Well, my big thing was that I think I'm a big fan of M&As, actually, asset-based M&As. I think I made mistakes in M&As where I acquired the team just too soon, too fast. It doesn't work very well for you. With your small company, and managing different cultures is very hard. Managing different people is very, very difficult. And I think for acquisitions, why I did it was, I mean, if any company has been around for a year up to, I mean, minimum I say a year, but let's say 6 years, 5 years, they're not growing that fast. They're still decent brands, decent companies. I'm sure they've done a lot of work on SEO. Even if they haven't done any work on SEO, Google still is crawling them somehow, right? So for me, I did primarily just for the SEO. That was the only reason why I did it, actually, mostly so basically, we saw the traffic jump instantly. So let's say, I'll give you a very simple example. There's a brand that has been around for 2 years. Maybe they raised tiny funding, maybe they raised no money. Somehow they end up getting featured to 50 outlets, TechCrunch, VentureBeat, some random real estate site. If you go and acquire those 50 outlets, it's pretty tough. Might be also expensive, might never happen, might happen actually very easy. But if you can see that, hey, like Data had thousands of links in Google, that there's no way I can replicate that. There's no way if I can even like try to do this in like 1 month. We got all of that. The day we acquired it, we got all of that. So we got the same thing for 5 companies that we did. And we saw the traffic jump. It takes time to kind of like do the redirection the right way and blah, blah, blah. But once you do that, it really benefits you for the very long run.
That's super interesting. We actually had a few M&A in the group, so I was kind of curious to learn a little bit more about it. So
yeah,
cool.
It's exciting.
Yes. So on another kind of topic or something I wanted to ask you about here, I'm just kind of curious about it myself. What are some of the biggest kind of like recent, I would say like growth experiments that you've run, maybe that have worked and then some that haven't?
I think one thing that we've been maybe failed at, I think, and this is on the, I don't know what it is. It's something weird that I just had to kind of figure out. But I think what we're failing maybe is that when we are trying to scale our paid, we're definitely hitting a lot of roadblocks. It's not, we've done paid at massive scale. And I think we were still hitting that roadblock, but we didn't look at it because the resources were like just, we had the resources to kind of overlook those things. And it's really hard to spot them when it's happening to you, when you're spending hundreds of thousands, if not like $1 million a month or something. And it's really hard to spot them because they're all mixing the numbers, and you can't go too detailed when you're just running high scale. And I think I'm seeing that now where we are doing much better when we spend less money, like a limit. There's a limit. I see that there's a limit that we can't go above that. And then there's a lot of organic traffic, kind of like when you mix and match both of them, we're doing much better with that. But we're having a hard time like scaling paid. The price goes up just dramatically, and especially on Facebook, especially on Google as well, which is like getting crushed. But then what's working for us is Android. We never imagined that Android would have the potential to really like grow. So that grows nicely, and then the price is also pretty decent. But what we have been doing for the past, this SEO, man, for the past couple of months, I think what's really worked for us is a lot of on-page work. So we have been really looking at all of the URLs, and the speed of the site has been the main thing for us. I don't think we're there. We did apply some strategies like pre-render, and pre-render was like really amazing for us, super fast for us, but it's still those 1 or 2 seconds, milliseconds that we were like spending on pre-render. And then it was just too expensive. Pre-render gets very quickly, very expensive. So, and the problem with the face and Google not following JavaScript, but I've been reading a lot about I think they're getting good at it. So you can let your site be just like what it is and let it crawl. So we went off pre-render a couple of months ago. We had a bit of a hard time scaling it, but now we're actually doing it quite well. So we're getting crawled more and more. I think our traffic has been very stable. We have done 3x more traffic than last year already in terms of all organic.
Wow, that's super interesting. So yeah, I definitely wanted to ask that because you're pretty good at spotting, I think like overlooked opportunities for growth typically. So
common sense, man. Just look at stuff that doesn't make sense to a lot of people.
Right.
Just do that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So what does the day look like for you now? I feel like you've kind of evolved in how you run the company. So I would love to learn a little bit more about that.
Thank you, man. I'm really like I'm just becoming a big fan. I think I realized I've had my own crazy journey with all this just running companies, and I think it's my 3rd company now. And I think what I realized that I think my mental health is more important. Just being happy, I think, is very important. Spending time with my family is very important. So I think I'm putting that first. I can be as honest as I can. I think very brutally. So that's more important for me now than everything else. So I think I want to run Roomi in a very sustainable way. I don't want to deal with any more fundraisers, at least for this company. And I'm actually trying to get Roomi to be an autopilot. I can't share much yet, but I wish I can share. But I think trying to get it to a place where this can just run and grow for the next decade to come without the worry of like really getting pressured to sell the company or some other pressures that I cannot control out of my control. But I think if it can go sustainable, for my dream would be like at least a decade, unless something crazy offer comes along the way and we can't refuse it, right? But that's a plan. So, and I'm spending time and launch my syndicate actually in February. I'm about to do my 2nd deal, investing $100,000 up to a couple $100,000 into one company a month or 2 companies a month max. That's been going decently well for me actually. And I'm also, it's sort of like accidentally end up starting a venture studio. Can't talk more about it now, but happy to share maybe some other time. It's doing really well. So I've been taking my learning from building these companies and really being actually focusing on revenue-based funding, profitability, and sustainable growth. Like this is my area. I feel the community first approach, I'm trying to apply it here and just run them nicely so they can all either have amazing exits or amazing revenue streams, and everyone's happy running these companies. That's the plan.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel like that's something that you've done, and it seems like you're always a builder. So it's cool to see.
That's all I know. I mean, there's nothing else. I'd be a bad employee.
Yeah, not the same. I think I'm actually unemployable. So
the same way you do. I don't think they're gonna hire me.
Yeah. Hey, Suzanne. So we're running out of time here, but I know you jumped on and you had a chance to chat with AJ.
I know. I'm
last
so
time.
sorry.
You're all good.
I was at the first one though, so I remember hearing you, but now my own home sharing platform has moved along. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride actually since I first met Mike, because I think that was just pre-pandemic, and this one has nearly crushed us. I just was quite interested to hear whether obviously I'm very late, but yeah, I mean, over here in the UK where we are, I know that the whole market for sharing and finding apartments and stuff has really just been absolutely killed by COVID. For me anyway, and for my competitors as well. It's just been really, really, really difficult. So, I just was curious if it was also the same for you.
Yeah. I'm happy to chat about that. And I think, this is a journey that we all signed up for. I can be asked that's all we chose this path, all of us. And I think in 2020, when the pandemic was like right there, like just hitting hard, I remember we would have been profitable and probably the biggest revenue year for us in 2020. We were just getting to an amazing start, doing amazing, but not spending any money in marketing. Like I think we were at like $0 spend and we like just crushing it. And then March, I remember when the revenue plummeted 80%, I thought, oh my God. I mean, I've seen almost close to 3 bankruptcies, and this is probably my 4th one. This is what I thought, and I thought like, damn, I wish I can get a chance, but I was not getting a break. And I think I had to literally just like, again, just like, just do it again. And I think save the company, and we didn't make any fire, we didn't fire anyone. We made some cuts, and I think we were like really smart and nimble, and I think it's kind of like just frugal, and it kind of worked out of just found a way to get out of this thing. And I think, all I can say is that I've been so close to these moments where your company can die any day. And it's brutal experience. Like I experienced that I wouldn't wish for anyone. I know that people talk about that. I've been through it personally myself.
Yeah.
And I think what I've seen that every time I was sort of like pressured, an immense pressure where I felt I'm going to break and this is just going to destroy me and my company, I think I came out stronger with my team. And the reason is when you become more resourceful, you do much better than actually wasting resource. And I've done both on both sides, because that's what you have. Your brain is the way it functions. You sometimes think when you have a lot of money, you're gonna find every solution by just like throwing money at it, right?
Yeah.
But that's not true. And then you have this FOMO around other companies. You feel like, oh, I gotta be this way, I gotta act like this way. Other companies are doing this way. So no, this is your path. And I think whatever works, unconventional things work really, really well for you. And if you do them long enough, compound growth and do them well, do it small. And I think if you do it for a long time, you can definitely win a big game.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, I mean, I think it's hard because you do hear people saying, oh, I'm doing so well. And you just think, well, not everybody's doing well. Like some of us,
all struggling.
Some of us are really struggling. Although I have to say, in the last few weeks, more investors have come to talk to me than in the past year. So maybe something's going on, which is good.
Well, touch wood.
I'm hopeful. I'm forever hopeful. Anyway, so yeah. But thank you. Well, I would like to catch up offline though, because we do have we do flat sharing for old people, and
please.
And I know that, and it would be just good to share with you where we are with some of the stuff and just get your views. So yeah, I'd welcome that. Thank you. That'd be great.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thanks, Suzanne. Hey, AJ, I was going to ask, because I know you came on last time, like literally right at the start of the pandemic. So on that note, kind of what have been your kind of like observations and kind of learnings through it?
One of the, I told you about, what we suffered through, but I think the good thing that I can see is this is like sad and very happy at the same time is a lot of companies died. Like it's like brutal. And I think it's not like you wish to close the company. I think this is a game you're playing, you're in the market, right? So you got to win. So I think that we saw a lot of the companies early stage, even late stage, that thought they're going to go on forever with the money they had, that are not there anymore. So I think we're finding opportunities to sort of like get that traffic that was going somewhere else to us. And I can share something quick with you without mentioning some names. So I've been in touch with one of the biggest companies in our space, and I'm sure you can all guess the company, but don't guess it. And I've been in touch with the founder, and the one thing I learned from him, he said, I've been doing this for 20 years now, and they're the most successful company in the space, makes ton of money. Like I think ARR is over 12 to 15, $20 million, let's say, as an example, right? And he said, I've seen a lot of companies that just come, raise capital, get excited, spend all the money, and then they die. And then we get all the traffic. So what I'm learning from that is that you sort of have to be patient with your strategy. So what we're doing at Roomi now, I think we're taking these learnings and say, you know what, we're going to build a company that really solves the problem, and we're going to keep making it better. Whatever the user desires, from reviews, from the payment history, to whatever helps you find an amazing roommate, we'll do that. Maybe one day we'll open up apartment rental with no brokers, because that's who we are. There's no brokers on the platform. So if we do that long enough and don't make many changes, I think that's what I'm also learning, that innovation sort of sometimes kills you. You think that this fancy feature, look at Craigslist. And every time we try to innovate or over innovate Craigslist, it doesn't work that well for us because the liquidity is there. So I think long game and the sort of compound growth over time, it can definitely beat all the competition in the world you can imagine without focusing on the competition actually at all. So that's kind of my learning from the pandemic, has been that really shift our focus from this, like we got to go big super fast, or we got to be profitable super fast, or we got to sell the company, whatever those things are. Just really let's focus on more sustainable compound growth like company.
Awesome. I think that's definitely a really great point. So I know my personal experience with Studio Time, and we've seen, like, I've been running it for 6 years now, and that's not the longest time, but we've definitely seen waves of startups, that have raised capital come and go. So
right, you can see them. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I feel like just by surviving, you're kind of winning. So
yeah, I think you are.
Cool.
They call us cockroaches, by the way.
Yes.
Do you know that that's the name?
It's real. Yeah. No, it's real.
Yeah.
My
everything. Last startup, honestly, I have kept it because the name was so good. And now there's 2 competitors that have come along with the same name. They don't own any of the trademarks. They don't own any of the social, anything.
Wow.
And my lawyer friend just said to me, just sit on it. She said, they're going to have to come after you for 6 figures. But the funny thing is the pandemic's actually delivered us into more revenue than we ever had before. And we've done nothing.
Wow.
I was just sitting there going, okay, maybe I should do something with this business now because it's making money, bizarrely. Yeah, sometimes it's just about holding out.
Yep.
Just hold out,
Cool. Well, this is a great chat, AJ. Thanks for joining us again. So I know you shared quite a bit with us. That was really insightful. So just a quick, quick kind of plug. Where can we keep up with you? If we don't already, which
thanks,
which
Mike. Yeah. I mean,
suggest.
Dude, on the community or just Twitter. I'm super active on Twitter or BitCloud. Whoever's on BitCloud, I'm happy to find you on BitCloud. Actually.
Yeah, should I buy a large stake of the AJ coin? So
I mean, I'll chat with you offline, Mike. I think I have a couple of things that I think we can probably collab on, man.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for joining, and thanks everyone for the questions.